What's up, folks? It's Parallax Abstraction, and welcome to another indie showcase. So this is a game that, at time I'm recording this, is not actually out yet. I was offered press code for it ahead of time, and I jumped on it right away because it's a shmup. And any of you who know me at all know that shmups are just, I love them. I love shmups to death. I have a unhealthy shmup collection on Steam alone here. And, well, unfortunately, I'm doing a video on this because they did give me press code for it. Unfortunately, this probably is not going to come with a recommendation, at least not in its current form. So this is Galaxy Warfighter. It's coming out on Steam on the 16th of April. I'm recording this on the 5th of April, so this video will be going up on launch day. The developer tells me it's going to be $6.99 US when it comes out. I don't know what the Canadian price is going to be, but that's what it's going to be. It's also coming to the Switch, and it's developed by Qplays and published by JoyBits, who are two developers most famously well known for mobile titles. But this is not a mobile game, at least not yet. But as you're going to see here, I'm going to be kind of amazed if it doesn't become one very quickly. And you'll see why here shortly. So, like I said, this is a shmup, and I love shmups to death, so I was really excited about this one. And indeed, it has a couple of cool redeeming qualities to it. Number one is the art style. This actually has a pretty neat pixel art style here. On almost all the other fronts, it feels just very basic, very generic, and not very interesting. So you're going to see here, that's the settings menu. Yeah, so it runs at whatever your native resolution is, which, I mean, it's a 2D pixel art game, that's fine. There's also upgrades here you can buy for your ship that you get with this in-game currency that you collect by killing enemies, and you get a little explanation of what each of the different things are here. And then there's your profile. This is just stats. So you can see here I've completed about 12% of the game so far. The missions that you go on, well, you hit launch, you go out on a mission here, and the missions increment as you finish them. You can't go back and do previous ones. And you're going to see what this is. Now, I'm moving this with the mouse, and that is because this game has zero controller support. You're also going to see that the game is firing automatically, or maybe you can't see that because you can't see my mouse, but I am not pressing a mouse button. The game just fires constantly, automatically, and you control your ship with the mouse. You know what shmups also do this? Ones that you play on phones. They pretty much all work this way. This is literally the only shmup I have ever played on PC where not only the default control scheme, but the required control scheme is auto-fire, and it has no controller support at all. Yeah. So, the way each episode works is, or each mission works, is you go through some waves of regular enemies like this. You come up to a boss, you take out that boss, and as you see, I'm earning a ton of currency for doing these various things. And you spend this money to upgrade your ship, which makes you a little bit more powerful, which makes it easier to take on subsequent runs. You only have one life, but you see in the upper left there you have a health meter. So you'll take damage, and when you run out of that, it's instant game over, and that's it, and you're back to it. Now, you may have seen there was a boss there. You also may have seen that I took him out in about 2 seconds. Yeah. I haven't done a lot of upgrades yet, but I can steamroll most enemies at this point. Now, as you progress through the levels, more enemy types do unlock, but the enemies that I am fighting now, by and large, with the exception of this guy at the top here who shot the blue bullets, they're all basically the same enemies I fought at the start of the game. I have also fought a grand total of it's either 3 or 4 bosses, and you just fight them over and over and over and over again. Now, I'm guessing, based on the completion percentage in the profile screen, that there's 100 levels in this game. But they're likely all just variations on this theme. Maybe once in a while a couple of new enemies come into the mix, but this is what it is. There's no scoring system in this at all, so there's no leaderboards. Because there is literally no score, which is generally the main draw of a lot of shmups, is point chasing. But you don't have that. You do have these little, as you see, you can see me flying over them. These are little one-time upgrades that you pick up that give you a short, different burst to your shot type, or take out all the enemies on screen, like that, or things like that. This is arguably the hardest boss, and you're going to see why. So you see here it's a little bullet heli? Yeah, it definitely is. And what you've got to do is take out each of these shield things at the top and bottom, and then he changes his shot type, and you have to take him out. He is the boss I tend to die to the most, but even then, not too often. And most of the other bosses that I am encountering at this point, I completely flatten instantly. That, needless to say, plus the constant repetition of the enemy types, gets really old really fast. For the price, this is not a compelling shmup. And that bums me out, because shmups are not a dime a dozen. It's a niche genre. Not a lot of people are making them these days. A lot of good ones are coming out of indie studios. And when I see one come out, that's why I jumped on this without really looking into more about it, is I was like, another shmup, fan-friggin-tastic, because I try to play as many of these as I can, because it's a genre I still love from my youth, being an old-school retro gamer. There's just nothing compelling about this one. Like, there have been some shmups that I've covered on this channel before, in fact, that actually do interesting things with the shmup formula and put roguelike elements in it and stuff like that. That stuff is all kind of cool, because that does take the formula and change it up in an interesting way. And there are lots of standard arcade, score attack shmups that also add in different mechanics and different ideas to the mix to make them still feel very much like that kind of game, but that change up a lot of the core of it so that it does feel like a new and fresh experience. This doesn't do that. This feels like a major regression in most ways. It just doesn't, it's just not interesting. There's just so little variety in it. And I mean, now the nice thing is, when you do fail at a mission, you do keep all the points that you retrieved. So you see here, I can put an upgrade into a couple of different things here, like, I don't know, let's put it into my shields. Now, I did have that stop time upgrade that you saw in there that I bought. I don't actually know how to trigger that. That's what the thing you're going to see here in the bottom right corner. See that thing? That's the indicator of the stop time mechanic. I don't know how to trigger it. Spacebar doesn't work, the right mouse button doesn't work, the middle mouse button doesn't work. I don't really know what does it. I think the idea is that it's supposed to slow down time a little bit when you get hit, but if it is, I haven't really been noticing that. So not terribly interesting. But, like, the enemies are repetitive, and, like, the music in this is very generic. It definitely sounds like something that came off a royalty-free site. Both the menu music and this music, they don't really feel that they don't feel like they fit the sci-fi theme of this game at all. This game's one really good trait, I think, is this pixel art. I actually think the art in this looks pretty good. The enemy ship types in that, they're all fairly standard, but they're nonetheless well done. I really like the look of your own ship, actually. I think it looks pretty cool. And these planetary backgrounds are actually really nice. I think in that respect, in the looks department, they actually did a fairly decent job. But the sound mix is all off. Some of the explosions are way too loud compared to the rest of the game audio, especially when you get that nuke power-up, the screen clearing one. I like the fact that these bosses are all different, but again, there's so few of them, and they all have the same strategy. Like, it's not like you're running into a boss that looks the same, but as the game advances and as the missions get tougher, they have different mechanics to them in terms of how they shoot, or how you have to shoot at them, or even different amounts of health. It's the same thing. And it just feels horribly unbalanced, because, like I said, that's the boss I have trouble with, but other bosses in here, some of them have very simplistic attack patterns, and you'll just flatten them in 2 seconds. And I'm kind of like, well, okay. And I know the game adds more things to it as you go, but I didn't see any major enemy variety until I'd completed 10 missions. And that took me a little bit, because initially when I didn't have any power-ups saved up, things were fairly difficult. And that's fine, I don't mind that. The problem is, it doesn't seem, at least at this point, like the difficulty's actually scaling up. So, as I'm paying for these upgrades, it just feels like the game is getting easier, and not that the enemies are getting harder to make up for the fact that I am getting more powerful. it's just a bummer. I didn't want to get a press code for this game and not cover it, but, you know, I said a while ago that I'm trying to make Indie Showcase now less about... I'm not one of these channels who likes to just, you know, crap on objectively bad games. You know, a lot of guys do that to clickbait, and that's not me. I want Indie Showcase to be more about showing off cool stuff that people should play, because in this environment where there's, you know, it's very hard for indie games to get noticed, I want to showcase the good stuff rather than pointing and laughing at the bad stuff. And I'm not pointing and laughing at this, you know, this game bums me out because you can see there's good elements to it. There's the art is really cool. And the idea of this progression system reminds me a little bit of older, almost like shmup RPGs like Raptor Call of Shadows from back in the DOS era, which was a game where that actually didn't have a scoring system either. You killed enemies in that and you got money, and you spent that money to upgrade your ship. It was very, very similar to this. But the thing was, that game got harder as you went. The enemies scaled up, and you needed those upgrades, and in turn, the game gave you a bigger challenge to use those upgrades against. It made you feel like you were getting more powerful, and that you were really getting a chance to utilize those things that you got. This, at least to this point, doesn't feel that way. And if the difficulty does scale up, and it may very well as you get further along, but it takes way too long to get there, and again, I don't want to come across as sounding mean, but I played this game only for about an hour so far, maybe less, and I just have no interest in playing it for potentially hours more to see if it gets more interesting and to see if the mechanics get better. It's just not... I'm just not interested. There's no good hook there to keep me interested in this. The mechanics of this are not compelling enough to make me go, yeah, I want to work through this, because a game that has some interesting mechanics to it can compel me to slog through some parts of it that I don't like in order to see the good stuff. And this just isn't. This feels like a game that was made by a casual mobile developer and put out by a casual mobile publisher. Because of the control scheme, even though this is not a vertical game, and it doesn't feel like something that was tuned and designed for a PC or console screen ratio as opposed to a mobile phone. And indeed, maybe this is the attempt of QPlays and JoyBits to get into, you know, to try to expand themselves out and put games on platforms that are not just phones. But you can feel the mobile roots in this. In everything about how this plays. I would be shocked if this doesn't eventually end up coming to mobile. And if it doesn't, I just think that in that case that the developers thought that, hey, we can just take a game based around our expertise in designing stuff for phones and make it good on PC. And developers have proven repeatedly over the years that trying to shoehorn a mobile game into PC, especially some of these free-to-play games that just try to charge a lot more on PC because they can't charge microtransactions, I'm sorry, you just can't do that. It doesn't work. And again, it doesn't... I don't take pleasure in saying that because I want to see more good, interesting shmups come out on PC. There we go, I finally got him. I'll see if I can show you another one here. I want to see more interesting stuff in the shmup genre come to PC because I love shmups, you know, and I buy as many shmups as I can, even though I don't nearly play them enough, because I just love this genre, because it's a genre that's rooted in everything that made arcades amazing back in the day. And as someone who I said is an old-ass gamer, I have a lot of fondness for that. This doesn't do that. This doesn't adhere to anything that makes that formula cool, and the way it tries to disrupt the formula is not compelling, and is in fact in a way that games like Raptor Call of Shadows or Jets and Guns did in a much better way and did years and years ago. You know, there are games from 20 years ago did this formula better than this one does now, and can be had on PC for similar money. You can go buy Raptor Call of Shadows from GOG right now, and you'd probably enjoy it a lot more than this, and it's not going to cost you much more. But I can say that, so here's another boss, another one of the common bosses. Well, that was easy. And like you see, like this song that we're hearing here during this level, that's the only in-game music I've heard so far. That and the song at the menu. There's no other variants. And the thing is that bums me out about this is that even if I was playing this on my phone, I wouldn't find it interesting. I have some shmups on my phone, and the ones that aren't exploitative free-to-play crap are good. You can make a shmup work on a touchscreen device. But I wouldn't even find this fun on a phone. It's designed to apply to the most uber casual player. But especially with some of those bosses, I could see this being too hard even for those people. So at the end of the day, I really can't even reliably say who this is for. It's weird, right? And yeah, it's too bad. I wanted to give this game coverage because they gave me a press code, but, you know, in the interest of being honest, and I cannot recommend this. There are so many better options just on PC and Switch for shmups right now that can cost a similar amount of money and give you a much better experience. So here's another boss. Like, look at the attack for this guy. Look at how easy this is to dodge. There's nothing to that. That's it. And sure, based on this, there's a whack ton of missions in this. Am I even remotely interested in getting through them all? Not on your life. Right now. Especially when it really doesn't seem like the difficulty is scaling very much. And maybe it does. Maybe in the 30th, 40th mission, things start getting really tough. I'm not interested in grinding my way there. I'm just not. It's, you know, it's unfortunate, but yeah, I just honestly really can't recommend this game right now. But I wanted to show it to you guys so you guys can make up your own mind, and maybe this does look compelling to you, and if it does, give it a shot for sure, but it's definitely not for me. So yeah, this is Galaxy Warfighter, developed by QPlays, published by JoyBits. It is coming to the PC and the Nintendo Switch on the 16th of April 2020. It is going to be $6.99 US, I believe, on both platforms, and I would be very shocked if we don't see this on phones or elsewhere in the near future, but don't get this right now. There are a lot of other shmups available for similar money that are a lot better. But yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. If you did like what you see here, please click that subscribe button, drop a like, and hit the notification bell so that you get notifications on future videos. Let me know what your favorite shmups are that are available right now on PC, console, whatever, down in the comments. There's a lot of them out there, and there might even be a few I haven't seen yet. I'm happy to drop some recommendations too. If you like shmups and you don't really know what's good right now, feel free to ask. I'm happy to give you guys some options for that. So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you on the next episode of Indie Showcase. You guys have yourselves a good one, and take it easy.